A death row inmate who admitted to committing a grisly murder in 1999 could undo as many as 1,000 criminal convictions and change legal jurisdictions across nearly half of the state of Oklahoma after his case is heard by the U.S. Supreme Court next week. As a member of the Muscogee Creek Nation who committed a crime on what is potentially tribal land, Patrick Murphy contends that the state of Oklahoma had no jurisdiction when it convicted him in 2000 and sent him to death row for the mutilation and killing of a man named George Jacobs. His case is headed to the Supreme Court on November 27, and a win for Murphy could have far-reaching implications for criminal justice in Oklahoma, ultimately placing criminal, and possibly civil, jurisdiction over more than 4,600 square miles of land under federal or tribal authority. If the decision is upheld, every person who is a Native American and was convicted of a crime that occurred on native land would be entitled to challenge their conviction, said Eric Graylis, First Assistant District Attorney for Tulsa County. It would be a flood of old cases that would need to be retried, he told Daily Mail. The swath of territory in the balance, the Muscogee Creek Nation's boundaries as defined in 1866, includes 750,000 people, and most of the city of Tulsa, according to the American Bar Association Journal. Currently, the tribe is the fourth largest in America with 86,100 citizens. Murphy was convicted and sentenced to death in Oklahoma State Court, and a higher court upheld the decision in 2002. His attorneys have since appealed to the 10th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in Denver, arguing that the land where Murphy killed Jacobs was defined as part of the tribe's reservation in an 1866 treaty, and that the federal government never actually disestablished the reservation. The state has argued that Congress terminated the Muscogee Creek lands and the tribe's authority when it dismantled tribal governments in the early 1900s. Share this article. However, the 10th Circuit Court ruled in Murphy's favor in August 2017, a decision that Murphy's lawyers say means he should have been tried in federal court. The state is now asking the U.S. Supreme Court to reverse the ruling of the 10th Circuit Court. Murphy's case could lead to the unraveling of hundreds or more cases over jurisdictional issues. When a serious crime is committed by a member of a federally recognized tribe on tribal land, the case is tried in federal court. Less serious crimes go to tribal court, while crimes committed by non-natives would go to state court. The tribal courts are utterly unprepared to deal with this, Graylis said. They would have to hire a massive amount of personnel. The downstream consequences are pretty vast. It would also mean a high number of criminal cases could be required to go through federal courts, and the consequences of retrying 1,000 or more cases would be far-reaching, he added. There are great concerns, Graylis said. Because if a crime occurred 20 years ago, and you have to retry the case, you have witnesses who may have died, evidence has likely been destroyed. Because these cases have already been in final conviction status, files may be missing, and just memories fade. Even if people are alive, you're asking a police officer to remember who he saw and what he saw decades ago. It would be an extreme challenge. In addition, unraveling jurisdictional authority at the level of policing could become wildly complicated because it's not always obvious who has enough Muscogee Creek blood to qualify as a member of the tribal nation. Let's say you get a DUI, and the guy is obviously drunk, and he's passed out at the wheel, Graylis said. You open his wallet and he just has an Oklahoma driver's license. Where does the officer take that person? the officer could be transporting him to the wrong jail or the wrong jurisdiction because the officer doesn't know if he's a member of the tribe. A Murphy victory could also lead to 4 other Oklahoma tribes seeking to regain their historic boundaries. Collectively, the Muskogee Creek, Cherokee, Chickasaw, Seminole, and Choctaw are known as the 5 tribes. All have tribal land that is in a similar legal limbo in which an explicit cession of land never took place at the federal level. If Muskogee Creek regains its territory as defined in 1866, the other 4 tribes would likely launch their own legal challenges to do the same. If all of the 5 tribes were successful, 43% of the state of Oklahoma would become Indian country, encompassing 48% of its population. Lindsay Dowell, first Assistant Attorney General for the Muskogee Creek Nation, told the American Bar Association that each tribe would have to individually do a historical deep dive into their own treaty circumstances to determine whether they would also regain historic boundaries. If it extends to anyone, it extends to them, Dowell told the ABA. But that would still have to be litigated. Judith Royster, a professor of Indian law at the University of Tulsa, told the ABA the tribes would still have to prove they have a right to regulate specific activities under federal law. For example, a law passed in 2005 prohibits Oklahoma tribes from making environmental laws without the state's permission. There may be some increase in tribal jurisdiction, but it is not going to be the kind of the sky is falling reaction that you sometimes see, she said.